When was the last time you felt in control of your business finances? Expenses tracked, invoices sent, taxes ready. That's where Found comes in. Found brings your banking, bookkeeping, invoicing, and taxes together in one simple app. Manage expenses, invoice clients, send payments, and prep for tax time right where you bank. Join the hundreds of thousands who have already streamlined their finances with Found. Open a Found account for free at found.com. That's FOUND.com. Found is a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services provided by Lead Bank, member FDIC.
This is Peter.
And this is Tom.
And you're listening to History Teachers Talking Podcasts. So, welcome back to the podcast. This is Peter Zablocki and Thomas Reska. What do we got today, Tom?
Today we're going to take a look at presidential assassinations, not the ones that you know, but some of the ones that you don't know, and the attempts that have happened over the years. There was more than 30 attempts to kill an incumbent president since the beginning of the 19th century. So we're going to be looking at that today.
You know, I actually just read somewhere not that long ago that there was an attempt on Trump as well. Did you catch that when you were looking?
Yeah, there was a couple on Trump. I don't know, you want to just get to him and work our way backwards?
I thought it was kind of funny. Yeah, let's
go a little crazy here. Well, yeah, obviously every president is going to be people that don't like him. But Trump has had a couple. The one that I thought was the most interesting, I mean, you always have someone that said he wanted to kill him and stuff like that. These aren't just threats that we're talking about. These are actual attempts, even if the attempts gets thwarted really early on. We're still talking about that. And there was this one individual actually has that what he did was he sent Trump a bunch of these seeds. And these seeds were, I have it here somewhere. These seeds were castor bean seeds. Okay, William Clyde Allen. He was a U.S. Navy veteran. They don't know why he did it. He also sent these letters also to James Mathis and John Richardson, Mathis was the Secretary of Defense, and Richardson was the Chief Naval Operations Officer. And he sent these seeds to them, these castor bean seeds. He sent them like 4 or 5 of them. And if Trump or any of these guys would have touched them, and if they got on their skin, they're poisonous. Like they will kill you. They'll cause like a severe allergic reaction. And he was arrested in October 8th, 2018 in Utah. He's still in jail now. They don't know why he sent these things. They believe he has some mental illness. But that was probably the most recent attempt that we're aware of on a president's life. But yeah, just from these beans of a plant. They're laced with ricin, so that chemical ricin. That's why they're so deadly.
Wow. Yeah, and I mean, we should, obviously we're going to touch upon that today, but the Secret Service at first, when it was created, it was about trying to find counterfeit money and battle that. It was never really meant to protect the president.
No, that was it was after which they.
It officially became what it is today after McKinley's assassination.
After McKinley, so not even after Lincoln. Yep. They were like, "Oh, Lincoln got shot.
No.
We don't need any special protection." It was after McKinley. That's right.
Yeah. So I think we'll go back a little further back. And one of the earlier ones that I found to be very interesting is the Andrew Jackson assassination attempt. January 30th, 1835, outside U.S. Capitol, Andrew Jackson. He's attending actually a service for a deceased South Carolina congressman. He walks out of the Capitol, and waiting for him is this dude named Richard Lawrence. Mm-hmm. Tom, what happens?
Well, Richard Lawrence has 2 pistols. He pulls them out. They misfire. And then Jackson proceeds to give him a beating of his life with his cane right there. Like Jackson actually beats up his attempted assassin, which I'm pretty sure is the first only time this happens. So the guy tries to shoot, the guns don't fire, and Jackson just beats him down until other people arrive.
Cane.
Yeah, with his cane. And the guy was beaten severely. When I said, like, talking about, like, he was going to die. And they just beat him with it. And he was Lawrence was found not guilty by reason of insanity. The guy was crazy. He was a house painter, an out-of-work house painter that just decided, let me go shoot the president. Again, this is from the 18th.
Breathing in too many fumes.
Well, you used to paint houses, didn't you, or something like that?
Yeah, I love that stuff.
You worked at it. You love that stuff.
Why do you think I am the way I am? That explains everything.
It's like a friendly show. They're talking about inhalants over there.
But what's really funny is that in this particular instance, the guy pulls out a gun. Jackson's walking out. This guy walks up to him. Again, there's no security back then. I mean, people used to, during Jackson's time, 1830s, you were literally able to ring the doorbell, no doorbell, but you were able to knock on a White House door and be like, "Yo, I want to see the president." Like that was actually a
Yeah,
thing.
you can go talk to the president. Yeah.
Yeah. So when he's walking out of the Capitol building, this guy walks up with his gun. He points his gun, and it's like the world stops. He takes the gun and he basically presses
two guns. The guy had two pistols.
Yeah. So the first one, he pulls the trigger, nothing happens. It misfires. So then the guy pulls another one with his other hand, fires that one again, misfires. Like, what are the odds of two guns literally misfiring, which is insane. And at that point, Jackson's like, "Oh no, you didn't," and then starts just beating him, like Tom said, with his cane. But actually, there is accounts of it, and I was able to kind of confirm that.
There are pictures of it, so not more like paintings. Yeah.
Well, paintings. But next to Jackson was another guy that jumped in on the beating, and he was none other than Davy Crockett.
Really? Davy Crockett was there?
Yeah, he was a congressman. So
Tennessee,
Davy Crockett, literally got in on a fight and beat the guy up to like the Davy Crockett. And then another kind of interesting tidbit here is that Tom said this guy pleaded insanity. He thought he was like King Richard III, and this kind of insane dude. But his lawyer, his defense was none other than Francis Scott Key. And Francis Scott Key is the guy that we know today from writing the Star Spangled Banner, which was eventually, put into music from an old drinking song and is now our
I always like all these parts in history when you have stuff like this, when you have these like famous people that all kind of meet up. It kind of reminds me of like an Avengers movie. When you have like, here you go, first it starts out with Jackson, and then Crockett's there, Francis Scott Key. That's like when they recruit Captain America, Iron Man, the Hulk, and they go and fight Loki. Like it's just like they're all coming together into like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen type of stuff. I know it was a bad movie, but good, interesting book or premise.
Actually, I don't remember. I mean, from what I remember at the time, it wasn't that bad. But yeah, so Francis Scott Key gets this guy insanity plea, works out, boom. Andrew Jackson lives. Andrew Jackson, as we know, is kind of an intense president anyway. The guy lived his whole life. Yeah, the guy lived his whole life with like a bullet in him from a duel prior to it. So, kind of looking at around those times. Tom, you have anything else that like the olden times?
Well, we all the olden times. What are you talking about?
1800s, 1700s.
We had other ones. Obviously, you had ones dealing with. Well, we might as well talk about. We know Lincoln does eventually get assassinated, but that wasn't the only plot against Lincoln. There were other plots against him, known as the Baltimore plot. There was a conspiracy to elect him right after he was actually inaugurated, on his route to his inauguration, actually. And the Pinkerton Defense Agency, remember those Pinkerton detectives, they come really big during the labor disputes. They played a key role. They protected him there. There's the famous account in August of 1864, though, when Lincoln is actually on a horse and couch coming through the woods, coming back to the north from the White House. He was coming unguarded, just with him and like his companions. And a sniper actually shoots his hat off. It's that famous top hat they always see Lincoln wearing. Yeah. And he actually shoots it off. And when Lincoln gets back, the private actually talks about it. And they he showed up without his hat. And because a sniper actually shot it off, he said he was bareheaded because the sniper shot off. So just right there in 1864, and Lincoln could have been assassinated. See how close that happened.
I mean, and that assassination in itself. I mean, when he actually was assassinated, that was the obviously the successful assassination of a president, the first one of its kind. Lincoln did not have a security. He didn't have Secret Service. Did not really quite do what we said before. What he eventually did. Looking at like 1800s as well. I guess we have one that is successful in 1800s, and that is the assassination of Garfield. Right?
Garfield, yeah.
So James Garfield, 1881, Baltimore, at a Baltimore Potomac train station. He's on his way of vacation. He was president for 4 months, but the dude's like, I need a vacation. I'm tired. And then what's kind of cool here is that, he goes to the station. His carriage pulls up. It's two teenage sons, him, his Secretary of State. And, one of his cabinet members just had a bad feeling that day. And he's like, maybe you shouldn't go. And he's like, no, I got to go. So he gets there.
A writer-lawyer by the name, I might be pronouncing the last name wrong here,
Guiteau?
but
I think it's Guiteau.
Guiteau, yeah. Charles J. Guiteau shot him twice with what's called a Weebly British Bulldog revolver. All right, one of the bullets goes into his shoulder, the other pierces his back, and Garfield actually survives. He's gravely wounded, but he survives for the next 11 weeks. And the next thing kind of goes back to what we were talking about, how when on our first podcast, when Washington died from basically medical malpractice, the same thing happens here because these doctors are sticking their fingers in there unsanitized.
Yeah, they're trying to find the bullet. They're like, I
Trying to
think
find a
it's
bullet. Yeah,
here.
they're probing, looking for it, and they just did it with unsterilized fingers, unsterilized instruments. Again, kind of unthinkable in today's world, definitely in the COVID world, right? Things being unsanitized, and they're just sticking their fingers in there and anything else they can find, trying to find the bullet, and they're just lodging it deeper. And he really dies from septic shock, just from all the bacteria and everything else getting in there. They said that he would have easily survived
Yep.
if this was,
It said it missed all the major organs. Like he
modern day
died from the
medicine, he
infection.
would have been fine. Yeah, he died from the infection, not from the actual
from the wounds. And there's a lot of interesting tidbits about this particular murder as well, and assassination. This is one that was successful, obviously. First of all, Guiteau was a very Republican dude, and he tried to get a position in Garfield's cabinet. He actually spoke to Garfield a couple of times. He was this random guy that, again, back in the day, he just had an appointment with the president, and the president was like, "Yeah, no, dude, like, you're not going to work for me." So
yeah, he wanted to be the ambassador of France, I believe.
Yeah,
and he was also bipolar, and they're saying that he probably had that from the effects of syphilis on the brain. They found out he had syphilis on the brain, and he just couldn't handle the fact that he was rejected by Garfield, that he wanted to be this ambassador of France. So he just wanted to end it. He that was his thing. He wanted his revenge on Garfield, and he took it by shooting him.
Yeah, and and what's a very similar case, that he also thought that God told him to do it. God told me to do it once he was rejected. But the way he planned it, the way this guy planned it, he was 39 years old, right? He stalked the president across Washington for a few weeks prior to this event.
He planned. He knew what he was going to do. Yeah, he definitely
exactly
knew Garfield was
target
thinking.
practice. The gun that Tom, that you mentioned, it was an ivory-handled gun, 44 caliber pistol. This thing was very expensive. He actually purposely bought that gun because he thought it would look good in a museum one day because of what he's going to do.
He would be famous. Because he also thought that Garfield owed him, because he believed Garfield got elected because he actually wrote not a speech. He wrote a speech.
I thought it was like a speech. Yeah.
He wrote a speech not for Garfield, but in support of Garfield.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, this speech is why Garfield got elected, was because of my speech. So he owes me." That's why he was upset about not getting what he thought was his due by becoming the ambassador.
And then right before the assassination, he also toured the local jail near Baltimore because he figured that's where he's going to wind up. So he kind of wanted to see where he's going. This guy totally planned this out. In his pocket during the assassination, he had a letter, in the White House that he said, "Look, I'm sorry, presidential death is bad, but I need to, do what's right for the republic." And when he sneaks behind the president, and as you said, Tom, he shoots him twice, basically jumped right away. This is at a train station. People jump him, start beating him profusely. There's screams of lynch him, lynch him. Police has to literally protect this guy and take him out of there. And they do. And then, as you mentioned, there's 10 doctors basically are there within minutes. And they're just, Garfield's laying on a dirty floor in a train station, and they're just turning him over, sticking the finger inside the wound.
You had no idea of sanitation or that. I feel a lot of that modern medicine, or what we consider modern medicine, doesn't come out until this Civil War even. Is when they start doing some of that stuff, that they start realizing, hey, maybe if we keep things clean. But really, even in World War I,
this is 1880s.
This is 1880s, so they have no idea. I'm sure doctors, that's not true. Doctors do have the idea, but a lot of them still don't believe it. There's just still the time when they believe, hey, don't shower every day because it's good if your pores are clogged up. That keeps the sickness out.
There's one other interesting tidbit about this murder, and that is the case that they couldn't find the bullet that was lodged in his back. They just couldn't find it. So they brought in, while he's, like you said, weeks. He's laying there. It's all in the newspapers. President's still, in kind of bad shape. And Alexander Graham Bell, the Alexander Graham Bell of telephone fame, had just invented what is essentially one of the first ever metal detectors.
Yeah, trying to find it.
Yeah, so he contacts, and he's already famous. So he contacts the White House and is like, "Look, I have this metal detector. I think I could find this bullet." So people are kind of skeptical, but you know what? We don't want President to die. Bring him in. So he brings him in. He uses this metal detector on Garfield to find a bullet exactly where it is so they could get it out. What interferes with the reading is the fact that Garfield was laying on his bed that had metal springs in him, and it kept on interfering, giving a false positive on the reading. Again,
I remember.
Bell couldn't even figure it out. He's like, I don't know why it was working. I tried it out. I don't know why it's not working. But he goes, but I think it's here. And they're like, yeah, that's not good enough. And sure enough, actually, it was there after the autopsy. first of all, it's difficult to find a jury for Guiteau because everyone just wanted him dead. So they're trying to find an impartial jury. It took him weeks. He was found guilty, regardless of whether to try to claim insanity. He actually was executed about a year and a day, almost a year to the day after assassination. And
he's hanged, right?
Yeah, they hung him.
They hung him.
So that's 1880s. So the next assassination that kind of comes in is not that long after, and that is the assassination of William McKinley, and that's in September of 1901. It happens at the Buffalo Pan American Exposition. He is shot by Leon Czolgosz.
Yeah,
am I saying that right? Yeah,
you would know it more than me. You have that Eastern European
Polish
background a little more than I do.
I have that Polish thing going. So this guy's an anarchist. He's at the Pan American Exposition. Spanish-American War just ended. McKinley is actually riding high. Technically, because of the Spanish-American War, we kind of stall Spain's empire, and all of a sudden the United States is a global empire for the first time ever. Actually, when he arrives there, they have fireworks that spell out, "Welcome President McKinley, chief of our nation and our empire." Very specific with that last word. Some staff members, he's there for a few days, are very much skeptical about this last meeting or the last appearance, and mainly because the idea was that here is the president and he's going to stand and there's going to be a line of people and they're going to be able to come up and shake the president's hand. And
this is
some
something
of his friends,
that's not going to fly today.
Yeah, some of his friends are like, yeah, that's not a right. Even back then, they're like, that's not the right thing to do. And he's like, no, that's going to be okay.
Well, they said that anarchist comes over. He has a revolver, and he actually has it concealed underneath a handkerchief, so they couldn't see it anyway. So as he goes to shake McKinley's hand, the first bullet he fires actually it hits him, but it ricochets off one of his award medals that he's wearing, and it lodges in his sleeve. Yep. And the second one actually pierces his stomach. He gets injured, but he actually looks like he's actually recovering early on. But then again, his condition declines really rapidly because gangrene sets in around the wound.
His stomach.
His stomach, yeah. And then also the stomach, that's just tricky when you get a wound in the stomach like that. So he winds up dying on September 14th, 1901. All right, so a few days later. Basically, same thing. Members of the crowd, someone by the names of James Benjamin Parker.
Big Jim.
Actually, Big Jim, yeah, Big Jim, what they call, actually subdued and captured the anarchist. And a bunch of National Guard jumps in. Police intervene because they believed he was severely beaten. He was beaten so badly they thought he couldn't even stand trial. Again, he was beaten within like an inch of his life by the people right there, by Big Jim and all of these National Guardsmen, and the police had to stop it. And they quickly actually rushed to trial. Only 10 days after McKinley was killed, they rushed to trial because they're afraid he was going to die before they could send him on trial. That's what they were worried about.
Yeah. So McKinley gets shot. James Big Jim Parker is a tall African-American guy. He's waiting in line. He's directly behind Czolgosz. Once this whole thing starts to happen, he's the one that kind of attacks him first. And McKinley, as he's laying there, one of the first things he says is, my wife, please be careful how you tell her. He's thinking about his wife at the moment.
He was worried about his wife there. That's right.
And then, they take him to like a small clinic hospital at the exposition. And the only doctor they could find is a gynecologist. And, this the only doctor that literally is around this, Pan American Exposition at that moment. And they're like, well, we got to have emergency surgery. So his gynecologist gives him his, emergency surgery. The first bullet went right through his stomach. So the guy kind of cleaned the wound the best he could and let it be. And the other one that lodges in the sternum, he just couldn't find it. So they kind of left the bullet in there. Basically the bullet stayed in him till the end. And it seemed like he was doing better, like you said, Tom. And he was actually doing so well afterwards. TR, Teddy Roosevelt, who was very controversial. He was even vice president at the time. Not a lot of people knew him. They thought that they would make Teddy Roosevelt the vice president to kind of shut him up.
Shut him up, right? Yeah, make him obsolete.
Yeah, because they thought the vice presidents really don't do anything.
They don't do anything. We'll give him power, make him happy. Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah.
So TR actually takes off on a trip. He goes to the Adirondacks. He's like, you know what? I'm positive. He's interviewed by a newspaper. He's like, I'm positive. President's gonna be fine. I'm going on a trip. That was not a good idea because, as you said, gangrene kind of formed the walls of McKinley's stomach, led to massive blood poisoning, and he dies within hours. 2:15 a.m. September 14th.
Yeah, once gangrene sets in, that's it. There's nothing that's really gonna save you at that point, especially back then.
So Czolgosz is found guilty, and he is executed by the electric chair.
Electric chair, yeah. So it shows that, increasing of in capital punishment technology, right?
Yeah, indeed.
Right. So they're going to the electric chair now.
And Teddy Roosevelt becomes president, and that's history in itself.
Oh,
And also,
that's
when
a podcast in itself. Yeah, that changes everything.
And then Secret Service, as we know it, kind of is starts at that current moment. You might say
Congress directed the Secret Service to protect the president from that point forward.
Yep.
And it's not just the president; it's the president's immediate family, the children, the vice president, same thing,
vice
their
president,
wife,
yep.
their children, and it's for life. It's not even when they leave office. He's going to see some of these other attempts happen at later on in life. Some former these presidents, and they are protected for life. It doesn't end when their term ends.
Yep. I read a book, Five Presidents, or something along those lines, by the Secret Service guy, by Clint Hill. I'm almost positive. It was like Five Presidents, My Extraordinary Journey, and I think it goes. Now, I think it was Ike, actually. It was Ike, Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, and
that makes sense.
Ford.
Probably Ford for a bit, yeah. Because Ford wasn't mentioned.
Ford for a bit. And we'll get to Ford today, actually, no podcast. But, the next guy that has an attempt on him is actually, I think we should talk about it because we just did, and that's Teddy Roosevelt. Even though he's no longer president, at the time of this attempt, I think it's kind of interesting to bring this up because it's kind of really,
this is one that people do know of this one. I mean, I guess if you follow history or follow anything about Roosevelt, because Roosevelt becomes such a popular figure, this assassination attempt definitely adds to that folklore of Roosevelt as the bull moose. Definitely. This definitely does that.
October 4th, 1912, unprecedented. He is running for a third term, not consecutive. He was already president. He stepped down as being president. Taft becomes president after him. And, Teddy Roosevelt kind of feels like Taft's not really doing what he's supposed to be doing. He's like, I'm coming back. He comes back starting a whole new party, right? He calls it a Bull Moose Party, Progressive Party. And actually, he's the one that kind of is the reason why Wilson gets elected because, he splits party vote. But he's running for president, and John Schrank is an ex-bartender. He basically decides that he doesn't like the president, well, ex-president, or potential future president.
He thought he was doing something to help McKinley too, right? Yep. Wasn't that something to do with him? Like he was like...
Was it? I don't know.
Yeah, that was something that I read, that he thought he was like avenging McKinley. Not that Roosevelt had anything to do with it, but he just thought like by shooting Roosevelt, he was avenging the death of McKinley. It was obviously messed up in his head, but
yeah, that's interesting.
Which is a common theme with a lot of these individuals.
Yeah. So here he is, and he's about to give this big speech, about a 90-minute speech altogether. It was like a 50-page speech he had in his pocket, which is thank goodness.
He had it folded over in his pocket. Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy fires at TR, right, at Teddy Roosevelt. The bullet pierces his eyeglass and the 50-page speech and penetrates his skin, actually goes into him between his ribs. The guy, people jump on this guy, they beat him up, they arrest him. As you mentioned before, the folklore, the idea is, Teddy Roosevelt's like, well, I'm not going. I have a speech to give. So he actually starts the speech with, well, I have just been shot, but it takes more than that to kill a bull moose.
And everyone's just like pumped up. And everyone, he goes on to talk for like, what, 84 minutes? Bleeding. Yeah. Well, he was
literally bleeding through his shirt.
What he talks about too, is that, Roosevelt, anyone who knows him, he was an avid hunter. So he knew that since he wasn't coughing up blood, it didn't probably hit anything vital. So he's like, I can just hang out here. I'm going to bleed, but I won't bleed out. I'm not coughing up blood, so it didn't hit my lungs or anything. Yeah. So he just says, I'm going to come here. I'm going to stay here. And he gives his speech for the next 84 minutes. And he knew, too, giving this speech after you were just shot, people are going to think, well, this guy is, everything he says he is. I mean, if his image was the tough guy and he just got shot in the chest and he's bleeding, like blood is soaking through his shirt as he's giving his speech for the next 84 minutes, people are going to be like, well, listen, if this guy obviously knows what he's talking about, he obviously is a born leader. Yeah, this guy, he's a god. Like, he's a man's man. He's a bull moose. Oh, like that. This just added to Roosevelt's legacy. And they say not only because he had that the speech folded over and he had the metal eyeglass case in his chest pocket, but also it hit him in the chest. And Roosevelt was actually really built, especially for guys at that time, because he was so sick when he was younger. He actually was one of these first individuals who really was into like weight training and weightlifting. Yeah. So he actually had a couple pounds of muscle there. So that's another reason why that it just slowed the bullet down enough that it didn't hit anything important. Yeah. It was able to survive.
And you're right. It was. I do remember reading that now. That the guy thought that McKinley came to him in his
in a
sleep,
dream or something like
a
that. Yeah.
dream, and was like, "Yeah, you're right." Like he pointed at TR. That's the guy, and he was found. He was found insane, and actually, he was not killed.
Yeah, he was institutionalized, and he winds up dying, I believe, in 1943, and just living out in a mental hospital. Which again, is something that happens a lot. Like a lot of these presidential assassins or would be assassins don't wind up even like getting out, or the ones that aren't killed themselves wind up just going mental asylums basically of the time if they're
Yeah.
not killed right away
Yeah.
or by someone else.
The next one that I have, unless I missed a one, and this doesn't really even get close, but it's still considered a failed attempt, was on Herbert Hoover. Do you have anything in between that I missed?
There was one. There was one on Taft.
Okay.
All it basically was is that it was dealing with Taft going to a summit in El Paso, Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and it was actually important because it was going to be it was the first meeting between a U.S. president and a Mexican president.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first time American president actually crossed the border into Mexico, and they wanted to show support because the Mexican president, Porfirio Diaz, was running for an 8th run as president, right? And Taft agreed to support him, so they would kind of figure out where they wanted to have this, meeting. And both sides were really nervous about having these two together. They've sent over like 4,000 U.S. Texas Rangers down. There was like 6,000 Mexican troops, U.S. special agents, FBI, and they're all there to provide security. And they actually are able to catch this one individual that actually caught this. They don't say the guy's name, but they did catch a guy that was holding a concealed palm pistol in his hand, and he was trying to get into the El Paso Chamber of Commerce building, which was along the progression route. And he later says he was planning on going up into the window there and just waiting for the car to come by and just shoot at it. I don't know how much damage that pistol would have done, but he was actually arrested. He would have been only like less than 10 feet away from Taft and Diaz. He was arrested by two detectives, Berman and Moore. So they did stop it. Whether or not it would have been successful, that was the closest that anything ever happened to Taft.
Yeah.
Again, there's probably many, many more that people plan that don't even get that far. But this one actually, the guy had the gun. They just caught him before he got into the building.
Yeah, and there's a couple other small ones that are very similar to that it just never really was carried out, but it got close. One was Herbert Hoover.
Yeah.
He was visiting Argentina, so also out of the country. Anarchists try to blow up his train, and they're stopped before anything happens. But Herbert Hoover, because this makes front page in Argentina at the time in some of the newspapers. When he brings the newspaper back home, he rips the front page off because he didn't want his wife to see it. But that was an attempt on his life.
I was kind of surprised with that when Pete, it's 1928, but like during the Depression, you figure like more people would want to kill Hoover, it's like a disgruntled losing their job, how he was being blamed for it in the Depression. But like, I guess people have more important things to worry about than trying to kill the president.
Yeah.
You think about like that, what he did with the bonus army, like you figure like someone would try to, someone was radical.
We definitely need to do one on the bonus army. That's an interesting one. And,
but
Jimmy Carter had another kind of similar.
Skip it all the way up.
I just kind of skipped a little bit, but I feel like it
all right, so kids who are listening to this, we are not going exactly in chronological order here. Do not think that Hoover was followed by Carter.
Okay? Carter was like 79.
People are gonna, they're gonna get confused. My students a lot of times still think it goes from Lincoln to Obama. So let's just calm down a little bit.
Yeah, I is a college student. So no, Jimmy Carter. I'm jumping here, but I'm jumping because it kind of fits with the mold. Very much similar to Taft and Hoover. It never really got close to hurting them. Because it was stopped before, and that's why I'm bringing it up. But in May 5th, 1979, police arrest this drifter, Raymond Lee Harvey, outside of the Civic Center.
No relation to Lee Harvey Oswald. I thought that was kind of weird.
Relation. It was kind of weird. I saw that, right? Basically, Carter was about to give a speech, and they caught this guy. He had a starter pistol, and he admitted that he wanted to kill Carter. So
he was planning this for a while.
Yeah, and apparently he had some friends. And
he said he had 4 people that they were planning to go do this, and one guy's name was Julio. But when they investigated, that was not the guy's name. But he definitely had some mental illness. But yeah, it didn't really get too far. But he did have this plan, and at least in his mind, it was very. He was target practicing and stuff like that.
Yeah,
trying to get ready.
So again, the reason I'm bringing that up, in this cluster is because it was very similar. They never really got close. So let's kind of go back a little bit, I guess, right? So we went from Hoover, and then we kind of jumped around a little bit. But there's also Truman. I mean,
before we get to Truman, how about we look at some FDR? Because I found some interesting.
FDR got shot, but then the other guy got shot right next to him.
Yeah. Well, there was another
All right,
one
go
too
ahead.
with FDR. Did you? There was interesting ones, obviously, with FDR. You want me to go into some FDR
Yeah,
stuff
if you
here?
want to go into FDR,
All
that's
right.
not
So what
a.
happened with him is it was 17 days after he was inaugurated when
Mm-hmm,
Giuseppe Zanegra, all right, fired
mm-hmm,
5 shots at him when he was in Miami, Florida, and he didn't
mm-hmm.
shoot Roosevelt. And the reason this one probably doesn't get as much of a press is because they don't think he was maybe even aiming for Roosevelt at the
Yep.
time. Or he actually killed the Chicago mayor,
Mm-hmm.
Anton Cermak, and he was killed, and 5 other people were actually wounded. He pled guilty to killing the mayor and was executed in the electric chair. And they think that that was his main target. They don't even know that he even knew that the president necessarily was going to be there. But what throws it in, again, we're talking about how these history people get thrown in, is that another theory is that the attempt was probably ordered by, at the time, the imprisoned Al Capone, because Cermak was really big in getting led down the crackdown on the organized crime in Chicago. So that was probably Al Capone ordered the killing and said, don't kill the president, make sure you kill this other guy, make sure you kill Cermak. And that's probably what they thought there with Roosevelt.
Interesting.
And there was actually another Roosevelt one that they made, apparently we didn't hear about it too much in the West because the West pretty much denies that it ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that at the Tehran conference when Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill were meeting up in 1943, that
Yeah.
supposedly the Soviets said that they stopped a assassination attempt by the Nazis to wipe out all 3 leaders. That these and they have made movies and novels. It's a huge story in Russia, apparently. The British say it never happened. The Germans say they never had such plan. They would have loved to do it, but they never sent anybody to do it. And the Americans are just like, that's just something the Russians would say, the Soviets would do. Like just mention that. Because all the information, there was all these documents on it, but none of it is from anyone else. All the records are just from the Soviets. But it was kind of interesting. And they make movies about it. They made movies about it in Russia just a few years ago. There was like this thriller that was all based on it and how they saved Roosevelt and Churchill and Stalin from being assassinated. When really it's debated whether or not it happened or not. They said
That's an
that that's
interesting
what
one.
it was. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I would like to look in more. I didn't have time to look into
Look
it too
into it.
much,
Yeah.
but it's one of those things. Especially when the Germans say that never happened. Like
Yeah.
even at the time, they're like we would have loved to kill the 3 of them, but we have no means to get people to Tehran to do this, and
Make
especially
it
in
happen.
1943. Yeah, they were kind of worried about the Reich falling at that point.
And then Truman, who follows FDR. There's 2 attempts. One, they try to send him bombs, because he was very much pro-Israel and the creation of Israel, and some groups that were against that mail him literally bombs to the White House, which were disarmed obviously before they got anywhere near him. The other one is interesting too. It was November 1st, 1950. Truman moves out of the White House temporarily because he's fixing it up. Actually, when you look at history records, the White House was in really bad shape when Truman moved into it. They said it was like water was leaking through the roof. It was just a
It was
mess.
like
And
disgusting, especially for like the president of the United States, the leader of the free
yeah,
world, to be living in there. The Cold War's going on. You got
it
to
was
look
that
good
nasty.
and have that. Yeah, it can't be going on like that.
So he's like, we got to fix this. And when they fixed it, they didn't like paint it. I mean, they literally gutted the entire inside, meaning they took out floors. You would have excavators inside the White House. The outside shell is the same. A lot of people don't know that, but the inside, they literally like excavated it out. It was like an empty
But I
shell. They
think when they start
redid.
putting in a lot of the security measures that the White House
Yep.
has, like today, like it starts to go in, I believe, at that time also.
Yeah. And then, eventually Johnson puts in a Fresca machine, like a water fountain with
Oh,
Fresca.
didn't Nixon put in a bowling alley?
He did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here you have Truman. He's living at Blair House. Blair's house is his temporary, place he's staying at while this is getting fixed. White House getting fixed. And 2 Puerto Rican national, Oscar Colazo and Griselio Terresla. I
Yeah,
think it's Terresla. I'm pronouncing
yeah.
that probably right. But essentially, what they do is they think they're going to assassinate a president. They get through the front door. Griselio kills an officer guarding the house. But what's kind of cool is that as this officer gets shot and he's killed, as he's falling, he manages to get one shot out, and the one shot that he gets off hits Griselio's head. He's a headshot and kills him. So this Secret Service guy that just got shot by this assassin, as he's falling, his body's falling, he managed to get a shot out, kills the assassin. The other assassin runs away. There's a shootout. Truman actually goes to the window and he's watching this whole thing. And the Secret Service is like, "What are you doing, Mr. President? Get away from the window." And he's like, "No, I want to see what's going on." And he kind of watched this whole shootout that was happening in the street in front of the house from his window. And then eventually they catch this guy, and they're like, "All right, well, we're gonna kill him. We're gonna basically electrocute him." And Harry Truman's like, "Nah, let's just give him life in jail," And then they do. And the irony in that is that Jimmy Carter actually paroles this dude, right? He paroles this dude.
Time served.
Yeah, before time served, when Jimmy Carter becomes president, he's like, it's fine. Paroles him, and then the guy goes to Cuba, and he gets an award from Castro for trying to kill Truman. 20 years earlier, rather. So yeah, after Truman, I didn't really have anything for Ike. Did you have anything for Ike?
No, surprisingly, I thought there would be something with Ike, especially with everything going on.
He was too busy playing golf. He was just playing golf.
Yeah, also, he's a World War II general, so they probably just figured, you know what?
Don't mess with that guy.
Even be, country, everyone was liking the country, right? GI Bill of Rights, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I think we could talk about some of the Kennedy. There was a Kennedy assassination attempt in November of '63, and no, we're not talking about that one.
Yes.
There
was also one in December, also 1960.
Oh, was it? Yeah, I didn't know that. I know there was the November 2nd one. You want to talk a little bit about the December one?
Well, it was all it basically was apparently while vacationing in Florida. He was there. This is December 11th, 1960. He was there, and he was threatened by a man named Richard Pavlik. He was a 73-year-old former postal worker that basically just hated Catholics.
He went postal, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, he was former, but he hated Catholics. So his plan was he packed his car, his Buick, full of dynamite, and he was going to drive it right into Kennedy. But apparently he decided not to after he saw Kennedy's had his wife and daughter with him. So he decided not to do that.
You're right. I did read about that.
So he winds up, I guess, I don't know how to horror. The whole idea of like women and children, that was still that thing, even in the 60s with these psychopaths, like let's be nice to women and children. So he winds up getting pulled over 3 days later by the Secret Service because he's still in that area, but for there's a driving violation, and he still has the car packed with dynamite. So they arrest him. And then he was put in a mental hospital after that because he was, during this time too, he was still threatening Kennedy's life. So like, we have to just arrest this guy and keep him there. And he winds up getting out of jail just 10 days before Kennedy actually is assassinated in 63.
And then the other one on November 2nd, 1963, is Chicago Soldiers Field. He was going to go see a game, Army versus Air Force, on the agenda for Kennedy. And one of the Secret Service guys was undercover with this one group of nationals. I think they were Cuban nationals, actually. They were attempting or trying to assassinate Kennedy while he was at Soldiers Field in Chicago. However, one of the people in a hotel, like one of the cleaning ladies in a hotel, managed to notice that there was a bunch of machine guns and guns with scopes on the bed in a hotel room, and she called the police. So while the Secret Service was kind of really trying to get all these people, while this lady called the police, the FBI gets there and kind of butchers the whole operation, and these guys escape. Because the FBI kind of jumped the gun a little bit, no pun intended there. The Secret Service, the guys get away, and ultimately, Kennedy cancels his, visit altogether. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, if these guys are still out there, I'm not going. And there was another guy that same day that is pulled over on the same route which the president would be driving by, and he has an M1 rifle, a handgun, 3,000 rounds of ammo, and ironically, he's an ex-Marine who trained at the same Marine base in Japan at the same time as Lee Harvey Oswald. And he also admits to wanting to kill the president. This is all happening in early November, before, obviously, the fateful
actual assassination.
Yeah. He gets assassinated 3 weeks later. Again, that could be a podcast on all itself, but we're trying to focus on some of the less known
on all these attempts because it's obviously a job where you get a lot of attention. You attract the attention of these mentally ill or these psychopaths or just people that want to have their own agenda. And it attracts that attention. That's one reason why they have that Secret Service, the fact that it took so long for that to be put in place. And, these are just some of the ones that were made public. A lot of these weren't made public at the time. They don't become known until much later. And there's probably ones that we will never really fully know about, too.
Yep, absolutely. Gerald Ford, trip to Sacramento, California, September 1975. And I feel like Gerald Ford gets a bad rep, ever since he fell down the
right away, yeah. Then Chevy Chase used to do that on Saturday Night Live.
He picked up the wrong phone and not.
Yeah, and he just got portrayed as. Well, he was also disliked because his first major thing was pardoning Nixon, and people were just like, "Come on!"
Absolutely.
So, but you knew that was going to happen too. And but yeah, he wasn't well liked. But really, the reason he was attempted, some people attempted to kill him, wasn't really because of that. As I'm sure
No. It was no. The guy that tried to kill him was a woman.
women, yeah, two women.
Lynette From, and her nickname was Squeaky.
Yeah, we know
She
who
was
gave her that nickname.
Charles Manson.
Charles Manson, yeah, she was a Manson
Manson.
family member. So you say again, you're getting all these crazy like people from history all coming like converging together. This can be they should just make a movie about all this. Like Quentin Tarantino has to go and make one of these movies dealing with all this stuff. You know, like just how like Manson tells this one, you go kill Ford, and this is going on. And then he goes after Shannon Tate talk about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with some of this craziness.
Yeah,
that's like going on.
So you have, so she's the follower of Charles Manson. She's like, I'm gonna get the president. And same thing, she's kind of in the crowd, and she comes out. She's got a clip, a magazine, and her gun that is holding 4 bullets in it, but there was none in the actual firing chamber. So when she pressed the trigger, nothing happens. And before she gets a chance to press another one, Secret Service man Larry Bondaroff jumps between the president and kind of brings her to the ground, takes her gun, and that's the end of the whole thing. This same thing, a week later, president's still in Sacramento, and he comes out of this hotel and shots ring out. They miss him by inches, they say. It was a woman that shot him. It was a Marine in the crowd that subdues her. Yes. Yeah, no, so it's 2 women that try to assassinate Gerald Ford within 1 week.
And they both wind up getting paroled shortly after Ford actually dies in 2007, 2006. Yeah.
So Gerald Ford. All right, after Gerald Ford, I guess we have Ronald Reagan.
We talked about Carter. Yes, there would be Reagan, which is this one people are more aware of, obviously, because he the whole thing was caught on tape. More people are watching it, they saw it, and also Reagan survives, which
Reagan's kind of it's another thing. It was a tough. This guy's he's like 70. He literally has you know how it feels. You've had a collapsed lung. He's 70. He has a collapsed lung, but he walked into the George Washington University Hospital under his own power. Tom, you could probably relate, not to the 70 part, but,
Well, you have your adrenaline pumping. I don't want to get too much, but I remember when mine popped away, and I was at the gym at the time. I did finish my workout. I didn't do cardio. I was like, hey, I heard something's not right. I'm going to skip cardio today. But I finished my my sets before I went home. Yeah. Then it started, really. I remember, it was when the doctor said you have a collapsed lung. I was like, I would like a second opinion. They're like, no, here's the X-ray. That's the surgeon's on his way. The surgeon actually had to leave his kid's birthday party, the emergency surgery. That's
crazy. Yeah. Imagine, and this guy's 70. He's like,
70. I don't want to get to it. It's nothing to do with me. Yeah, but the surgery.
You were like 17.
19. No, 20.
All right.
Not. Yeah, come on. But he had a lot of internal bleeding, and he was close to death when he got there. They said he was. Yeah. If it wasn't for the medical at the time, they had the best doctors ready, he probably would have died. And this is supposed to be about Reagan's wit. They always talked about this and his comedic timing. Like right when they were about to put him under and operate on him, he said that he hoped the surgeon was a Republican.
Yeah. And then the surgeon said to him, today, Mr. President, we're all Republicans.
Yeah.
But just kind of a little background. It's March 30th, 1981, Hilton Hotel. This is not even supposed to be a big relevant speech. He goes and he has a speech for the Building and Construction Union. He walks out to his limousine, and the reporters are all over there trying to ask him questions. Some ladies screaming, President Reagan, President Reagan. And this guy's John Hinckley Jr., 30-year-old dude.
Actually, He wanted to kill Carter. He planned on killing Carter, but he lost his nerve. And then when Carter loses to Reagan, he's like, well, now I got to kill Reagan. And you're right. His whole reason for doing this was to impress one individual. I'm sure you saw that, right?
Oh, yeah. So this guy, and we'll get to that in a second. And actually, I want to bring something about Carter as well. I feel like I'm in class. It happens to me all the time. I just go off on a tangent.
You get that's all it is. That's all it is.
But Carter was kind of, he's kind of intense dude as well. He at one point there was like a melting reactor or something for when Carter was still in the Navy.
Yeah, 3 Mile Island. Well, he went toward.
But even that. No, I'm talking about when he was on a ship, and they're like, someone's got to go in there and shut this off, and he's like, he's like, I got it, I could do it, and so he goes in there. I mean, they hazmat suit him and stuff, but he goes in to shut off this reactor or something along those lines. And again, I'm sure someone's going to find the right words for this, and consider me ignorant, but at the time. He goes in there and then, he saves this ship, but apparently he's got like diarrhea for like 6 months after that. This guy's kind of an intense dude himself. But anyway, so let's come back again. I feel like I'm in my classroom.
Yeah, going back.
So Ronald Reagan, right? 5 feet away. John Hinckley Jr. is there. He shoots numerous times. There's 3 people that are struck by gunfire. 6 shots total fired. One kind of ricochets itself off the side of the door, hits the president in his left underarm because he was lifting his left, arm and hand waving. Yeah, that's what punctures his lung. Serious internal bleeding. As you're saying, Tom, like, this guy's 70. People are like, oh, crap. Like, this might be bad. Rushed to the hospital. And as you said, Hinckley had watched the movie Taxi Driver that came out in 1976, in which, in this particular movie, you have Robert Redford that is trying to impress Sybil Shepherd, I think, and Jodie Foster.
He was in love with Jodie Foster.
Yeah, Jodie Foster played like this teenage, essentially a hooker.
Yeah.
And he tries to...
He was obsessed with her. He was writing to her. He was trying to communicate with her for a long time. And he thought that by killing the president, he would become famous, and that would actually impress her. Like, wow, that's awesome. Now let's date. I don't think he's aware, and actually, Jodie Foster would never be that impressed with him. Not just for killing the president, but also the fact that she is a lesbian. So he didn't really have much of a shot with her anyway. But yeah, and I know Family Guy actually. Family Guy always does those little side clips, whatever. They actually did one where I forget like what Peter Griffin said, but he said something, and then he's like, "This is just like when Hinckley tried to impress Jodie Foster," and actually shows Hinckley shooting Reagan, and then Foster's walking down the street, and she's just like, "Wow, that was really impressive." And it just goes back to the other thing, but I'm sure he would like that.
So this guy's he's got a pathological obsession with the movie, with Jodie Foster. He is found not guilty by reason of insanity. He still put him in jail, but by not guilty, I mean they don't.
He was allowed on. He actually just
they don't kill him. 2016.
2016 he's allowed out, but he has to stay with his mother. I think
he lives with his mom.
He did get in trouble. I think he went back for a little bit because he wasn't supposed to. He's not even allowed to have any pictures of Jodie Foster, and he actually did write a letter to her when he was released, like apologizing and saying if you still want to be friends, that's okay.
What?
And then it never was sent, but the fact that they found out that he did write it and he was going to send it, he did get in trouble for that. But they said as of 2020, he was petitioning that he didn't want to have to stay in his mother's house anymore. He has to live with his mother. That's for its conditions. Yeah, he has to check in every couple of weeks with his parole officer and stuff like that. He's petitioning for that to stop, and they said no, that's probably not going to happen. But he's not allowed to have any pictures of Jodie Foster, no communication. He can't watch any of her movies. Like there's a whole list of all the things he's not allowed to do. He's still obviously mentally unstable.
Wow,
but still alive. Still alive. Hinckley is still alive.
Living with his mama.
I
think they're in Virginia.
Living in his mom's basement.
So let's get to G.W. Bush.
George H.W. Bush, right?
Oh, I was going to do W. Bush.
Oh, there's some on H.W. Bush, too, the daddy.
Talk about another tough guy. I mean, this guy's insane.
Well, yeah.
Fighter pilot during World War II. Super wealthy family.
Not Coral Sea, I believe, right?
Yeah. He gets shut down, lives with the sharks, for a night. He's like 17 years old. He had money. He didn't really have to go. But anyway, so he's president. What do you got for H.W.?
This is another one that it's out there. But again, a lot of people don't say that actually maybe it didn't happen, maybe it didn't, because everything comes from Kuwait. That after Bush left office, that he actually did go to Kuwait. And that there was this 14-man assassination squad sent by Saddam Hussein to smuggle bombs into Kuwait to plant on Bush's car. That when he went to visit Kuwait University in January of 1993, and supposedly the Kuwait officials and the Kuwaiti Secret Service foiled this plot. And there actually was suspects that were arrested, but they both later, after the trial, retracted their confessions. They said they were beaten and coerced to say that that's what we were doing. But it's
to make the Kuwait army look good in the sense.
Well, they look good, and also they're saying it was part. Then they kind of set the stage because a lot of people were saying that when Bill Clinton actually launched his cruise missiles an Iraqi intelligence building in Baghdad shortly after that. They were saying that he might have done that in retaliation for the attempt on Bush's life. So that's
well,
just
that's
one of
also
those.
people. People at the time, I remember, around 2003, people claimed that's why Baby Bush went into. I call him Daddy Bush and Baby Bush. Baby Bush went into Iraq is to avenge his father. That
Was a big thing. He wanted to finish with his dad. Because that cost Bush the election, that and when the economy tanked. But the fact that we fight this war in Persian Gulf, which again, something we can do later on.
And he did well. I mean, his actually after the war, considering the fact that we got again, we're going side tangent because we're history teachers, but considering the war actually ended favorably in the sense that people are like, wow, like it's not another Vietnam. This is all right.
But Hussein was still there.
So let's get to Baby Bush. George W. Bush, May 10th, 2005. He's in Georgia, and not as in the state of Georgia. He's in like the ex-Soviet Republic of Georgia. And he is there meeting with the Georgian president. He's about to give a speech, and this guy Vladimir, I forgot his last name. Basically, this guy throws a grenade.
It's Vladimir Arurian. Yes.
He throws a life grenade at the president, and at the time, and at the time, actually, again, this is 2005, so it's not like Bush is kind of just sitting there and he could get a grenade thrown at him. He is surrounded by this like clear, bulletproof plexiglass thing, right? But it has no top. So when Vladimir throws this live grenade up, he kind of chucks it up really high because he's trying to get it over this particular, structure. So that way it lands right by the president. Instead, it lands about 60 feet from him, but it lands close to Laura Bush.
Yeah.
And luckily, the idiot wrapped the grenade in a handkerchief really, really tight.
And that kept
the pin. Yeah, the pin never actually released.
The pin was pulled, but the clip never released. Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
And then another thing is, on its way down, it hit a young girl on the head, and they said that kind of softened the blow, as it fell on the ground, so the clip again didn't fall out. Again, he is caught. He confesses, I tried to throw a live grenade at George Bush. And I don't know if you saw this, but when initially he said, yes, I did. I was trying to do it. But then when he went to trial, he literally, what did he do? Did you read that? He sewed his lips shut.
Yes, yeah, he sewed his lips shut.
Like literally, you can see videos of it. This guy just sewed his lips shut. Like, gross.
Because he didn't want to say anything, yeah.
Yeah, nuts. There was something for Obama as well, wasn't it?
Well, there was a couple on Obama. There was also an interesting one on Clinton. There was a couple on Clinton, but the one that I really would like to bring up is that there was an individual, Frank Corder, who actually flew. And I remember this kind of happening at the time, when much younger. But he actually hijacked a plane. He stole a single-engine plane and flew it into the White House. They crashed it on the White House lawn. He actually died in the crash. But he was a truck driver. And he had alcohol problems, and he wanted to try to hit the White House and kill the president. And the president and his family weren't even home at the time. They did write a suicide note saying that he was going to fly his plane into the White House to kill the president. So again, kind of like foreshadowing what's going to happen years later with planes used as weapons. But the president not even home. He dies. But that was an attempt. And the Obama attempt, the biggest one that I found with him, actually was another one trying to also kill. There was someone who was in office, but the biggest one was actually a package sent to him. It was sent to a bunch of individuals. It was sent to Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton. It was that contained a fabricated pipe bomb. That's the one you were talking about?
Yeah, that's the one I read about.
It was sent by the Secret Service when they found out the pipe bomb. It looked like it was never armed. And that's how the guy got out of not getting charged with attempted murder. Because the pipe bomb, they were sent, but they were not armed.
Yep.
There's a few other with Obama, too.
Again, there's 4 presidents that were killed, 4 assassinations that were successful. Beginning with Lincoln, then you have Garfield, then you have McKinley, then you have Kennedy. And Lincoln and Kennedy are the more known ones. Maybe we'll do something about it one of these days. But today our attempt was to kind of, bring to light some of the less known ones. And
these attempts, they actually happen all the time. Like most of the presidents have some sort of attempt at some point on their lives. And these are just, again, the ones that we're aware of, not the ones that, some guy sitting in his basement is plotting, or, that the Secret Service or gets thwarted some other way, but the ones that actually were carried out in some way, shape, or form.
Yep. That kind of brings us to a close. I think that's it. I mean, we got anything else, Tom?
No,
I was going to say fun facts, but this is all fun facts. Come on.
This was basically a fun fact podcast. That's
right.
basically what we were doing.
There's no fun fact section. This was the fun fact section.
This was the fun facts, all these little things. And, these are just the parts of history that can get you hooked.
And I think it's also, as a teacher, I try to share these things with my students, but, you're kind of dictated so much and you're led by the curriculum so much that as much as I would want to spend, a class, and sometimes I do, I talk about this stuff. I'm like, what, this is fun. We got to talk about it. But, when it comes to curriculum and the Common Core and all that, this doesn't really make it.
The hard part, too, is when you think it's a really cool fact or really cool information, you say it with such enthusiasm, and the kids just look at you like, is there going to be an assignment here I have to worry about?
Is there a test on this?
So if there are any students listening, if your teacher ever, has that enthusiasm, just throw us a bone once in a while.
Yeah, just throw us a bone. Just let us be happy.
You know what? That's cool. I'm like, wow. Just say wow or something.
Yep.
If I ever get a wow. Just don't look at the clock and be like, well, at least 5 minutes passed. Because that's just really deflating. It's just morally just shuts you down. And you're just like, okay. All
right. Well, I tried. All right. Well, till next week, guys. So Peter signing off.
Take it easy, guys. Tom signing off. Stay safe out there.
I hope everyone enjoyed our podcast, and if you would like to email us, you can do so at historyteacherspodcast@gmail.com.